Greetings, mercenaries, and welcome back to World of Warships. Yeah, this is definitely World of Warships. No, this is Mechwarrior 5 Mercenaries. And this is a bit of a filler video, although also I was going to do a video on this anyway because I've been quite enjoying it. It's one my brother got me for my birthday last month, and it's not a new game, but in the couple of years it's been out, it's garnered some very good mods, and it's had some okay-ish fixes from the devs as well. But I think it's more the mods that sold me on the idea of finally getting this. I kind of have been interested in the BattleTech universe for a while anyway, in a sort of on and off fashion, and I have played the game BattleTech. That was actually gifted to me by a viewer not that long after it came out, but again that had a bit of a rocky launch, and found it quite fun, found the campaign alright, and then went and tried the Rogue Tech mod, which I really like the idea of, and the amount of extra ability that gives for you to tinker with your mechs. But I could never quite get into that game as much as the idea of like doing a first person, actually controlling the mech yourself instead of more of a turn-based strategy style. So here we are. Mechwarrior 5 came along, and yeah, it's pretty decent. Although you do need a couple of mods, like I said. I also wanted to say, yeah, there's been a bit of a gap again since the last video, but the last week and a half there's been some stuff going on, and I'm sure some of you are aware at least. I know my patrons, I've said, I've given a little more detail on Patreon, but yeah, it's all stuff that's not helping my depression any, let's put it that way. Some family health stuff going on, and it's not been a good last week and a half, but I've been aware that I needed to put something out, so here we are. I was going to do a video on this anyway, so I might as well sit down and I can at least manage the stream of consciousness blethering over stompy mechs, because the other thing I've got queued up is a Patreon replay, and that requires actually sitting down and editing and then putting thought into what I'm going to say, and etc, etc. So, yeah, what is this game? Well, apart from the slightly weird first-person view, where you can actually look around the interior of your ship, which is nice, but you sort of glide in a slightly weird fashion. But yeah, you can actually interact with various things in the ship. You can look at your mechs, and yes, that is an urban mech with a very special paint scheme. Let's see if anyone recognises that. The rest I've done in the sort of World War II naval dazzle camo. Well, actually, it was more like World War I naval dazzle camo, but yeah, there's quite a nice, no, it's the tab key. There's quite a nice camo system in this game. You can, there's like a bunch of templates, and then you can change colours for them, and there are mods that let you add more in, so yeah. So yeah, you can wander around the ship, which is a nice novelty at first, but aside from the two characters that you need to speak to, which is your second in command up there, and then the guy that's in charge of the actual mech maintenance, who seems to be also the de facto chief engineer. Yeah, you need to talk to them occasionally, and aside from that, you're mostly just staying in the home screen instead. One weird thing about the ship is, and I don't know if this is a bug, but there's just this void at the back of the ship. But it's got a glisten, so it's a weird glistening void. I'm not sure. I think that must be a missing texture or something, or some lighting bug, that there's supposed to be like a slanted metal wall there, and for some reason it's just a void instead. So yeah, it's quite neat that you can look around and see the mechs at sort of real scale, as it were. And yes, it's my little Urbie, he's so cute! Only two variants of the Urbie in game, sadly, although there's like a hero mech version, but I have not encountered yet. But yeah, so but there are mods. There are also mods, and actually, if I go to the title, it does have quite a nice sort of mod integration. So the only ones I've got are as you can see, they're mostly installed through the Steam Workshop, but I did have a go at adding in some mods, like the Yet Another series of mods, which basically add a whole bunch of stuff with a lot more detail. I think a lot of it inspired by what Rogue Tech did for BattleTech. So adding a few more mechs. There's not that many that add full-on mechs because it requires more detailed models than BattleTech would do. But also lots more variations in parts and some core components as well. So yeah, there's some here, but there's also a bunch that when I tried to sort of have everything going, and I tried to get everything, and it was all of its dependencies, but it just wouldn't run. So I'm not sure if some of them just don't run yet with the current version of the game, because it was updated. I think the last major update was actually relatively recently. I think the most recent thing, the DLC, only came out in like January or February. And not all the mods have caught up yet. So yeah, talking of though, I do have one of the Heroes of the Inner Sphere, which is the first that came out, which added basically a couple of new bits of equipment and things, but also a sort of free campaign, or a free career mode. But I am doing the single player campaign at the moment. So that's probably enough blathering in terms of like what the game is about. I mean, if I was able to use those mods, I'd maybe go a little more into the loadout stuff, but it is really just the basics. And there's nothing too fancy here. It's I think fairly, like if you played BattleTech, if you played Mechwarrior online, this will be pretty easy to get a handle on. But I kind of want to get the more detailed stuff so that I could, for instance, swap out the engine of the Urbie, because at the moment everybody has it's all a fixed maximum speed, for example, or the actual frame of the mech. Like, you can't swap those around. There are some unmarked, more specialized versions. I think they're generally the hero versions or the rare versions that you get marked sometimes on the star map. See if I can find one nearby. No. There was going to be one, it'd probably be up here. Systems with the dotted line are industrial systems where there's sort of more facilities for doing repair work. And if you want to repair while you're in a conflict zone, it costs more, basically. So if you're doing major repair work, it usually pays to go to one of those. But yeah, there's a little symbol. It'll say, you know, there's a rare mech or a hero mech, but you have to be quite nearby to actually to pick those up. I'm in a fairly easy area at the moment. I'm in the border between the Draconis Combine, which is House Kurita, and the I can't remember the name of it, but it's House Davion. It's the Federated something. I can't even remember. Yeah, at the moment there's 5 major powers, but I think I can't remember if it's one of the DLC or if maybe you just play for long enough, because you know time does pass. That Razelhaig will break free as well at some stage, but yeah, at the moment it's the Lyrians over here, Steiner, Marek, and the Free Worlds League. And this is House Liao, and I forget the name of that one as well. It's a bit Game of Thrones, basically. It's supposed to be a post-galactic civil war setting, and these are the major factions that came out of it. For anyone that's particularly unfamiliar with the lore, and I'm not especially familiar with it either, but you know, there's better explainers than that out there. So anyway, let's see what contracts we have in this system. These are both single contracts, well within the sort of level that I'm sort of able to manage. I've like one of the mods that you would have noticed was the no tonnage limit mod, which again was a thing Rogue Tech that bugged me in BattleTech, and Rogue Tech sort of removed that. But Rogue Tech had deployment costs, so there was a kind of a trade-off. You could have a heavier than needed or heavier than tonnage limit lance, but it would cost you more, so it would eat into your profits. But it's not as balanced in this. Like, I like the idea that you can just, like, if you have the mechs, then you can just take the mechs and it's fine and there's no arbitrary limits. But at the same time, the tonnage limits are sort of like the difficulty cap for individual missions. So, you know, if you're in playing it vanilla and fitting the tonnage of mechs into that, then it's going to be, you know, less difficult if you can take bigger, heavier mechs. There's no real downside to it unless something disastrous happens to one of those mechs, in which case, yes, it becomes a lot more difficult to actually repair. Anyway, so I was going to actually do a mission, so we should do that. So let's take some salvage shares, which is the amount of stuff I can get basically off the battlefield. And as it's a demo contract, I'll take one airstrike just because I can show that off as well. This is a little different than Battletech, but not that much different. Like, these two here are the main two differences. I think in Battletech and Roguetech, it's literally just whether you take the money or whether you choose to get more salvage. Because salvage can... I mean, in vanilla, it's like entire text, but again, one of the things the mods can do is make it like vanilla Battletech and Roguetech, where it's actually... like parts of mechs that you can collect to then construct whole mechs. You don't necessarily need to incapacitate a whole mech, because at the moment, if you want to get a mech, you have to either take out the pilot, force the pilot to eject, or knock the legs off it. And you might be trying to do that, but your AI companion's just going to blast any which way. So, yeah, sometimes you might come across a mech that you really want to get, but... you just aren't able to. So we're way over tonnage for this, but we're going to slightly sort of even things out by taking Leduc, which, yeah, it's quite slow. Everyone else there is just there to be my bodyguard, basically. So, yeah. One of the other things, actually, that is nice about this game is that there's a co-op mode. So you and up to 3 pals can be in control of all the mechs, essentially. The vanilla AI is apparently not very good, even after what were supposed to be improvements. So I am using... is one of the mods is the most popular AI improvement mod, so I guess the behaviour is a bit improved, but sometimes they still get a little bit stuck on things. And the actual controls are like, you can command individual mechs, so you've got F1 to order all, and then you can sort of command individual mechs with the function keys. But yeah, they're a bit like, you can say attack the target that I've selected, you can say group up on me, you can send them to a location and it's basically wherever your cursor is pointing on screen, or you can toggle them to hold fire. That's it. There's no like you can't toggle stances or anything like that. You can't say take a defensive stance, take an offensive stance. Anyway, this is going to take a while because the Urbie, there's a reason why I've called it Leduc. It's I think the slowest battle mech in the entire setting. It's basically an urban, as the name of urban mech suggests. It's a sort of urban defense mech that's supposed to be cheap and cheerful, reasonably armored, very slow, but it does pack one hell of a punch. Now with the free cam, for some reason you can't look all the way around. Like, you're limited to the same angle of view that you are in the cockpit. But yeah, you can pack a big ass whopping cannon on the thing. There's also a medium laser on there as well. So yeah, it absolutely way punches above its weight in terms of the firepower it can equip. But with those cannons, you need to also have actual ammunition for them, just like Battletech and BattleTech the game rather, and obviously that's a thing in the tabletop game as well, that certain weapons also require you to have ammunition stowages inside. So yeah, it's got a big ass cannon, but it's only got 30 rounds for it, and the individual medium laser doesn't pack that much firepower. But we're not really doing this with its intended usage. Now, I don't know what they've picked up on. I haven't picked up on anything with my sensors, but clearly they have. They're already firing their long-range missiles. Anyway, yeah, hopefully they don't all waste their ammo before we get there, but I think everyone's got plenty of ammo, so they're LRMs. Oh yeah, that's the other thing about the Urban Mech that's unique, is it can do this. All of the others have a limited arc that they can swing their torso in, but because the Urbie was meant for literally urban warfare, it's got a proper tank style 360 degree field of torso movement, whereas all the others tend to be more like 180 to 270-ish. Okay, so we have enemy contact, and that is a Jägermeister. Ooh, what's yeah, friendly fire is a thing. You have to be a bit careful, but my allies are doing the biz. One of my mechs has got ECM jammer doohickey, but I think also if somebody's firing PPC, that sort of that's like a plasma weapon that can scramble your sensors for a moment as well. You'll have noticed there, yeah, the frame rate, like anytime there's lots of particle effects or smoke or whatever on the screen, generally the performance is quite good, but that can really tank it. Oh, never mind, he died before. I was leading the shots and then he died before, so yeah, that was just a waste of ammo. So there's another Urbie. And he's dead. Yeah, I have way heavier mechs than is strictly necessary here, but when you're in an Urbie, you kind of need people to protect your ass. That's a light mech. You can actually tell by the symbols above the mech. So those are, I think, heavies. Like 1 dot is a medium, no dots is light, 3 dots is an assault mech. So that's like the heaviest class of mechs. Although that one's only, I think, 80 ton or is it 85 ton? And I think the heaviest ones are 100 tons. Obviously, not every mech is in the game. Even the mods only add a bit. Right, so let's order them to attack. And what we can do is we can order an airstrike, and this isn't even a top-down view, so it's a bit awkward to use sometimes. There's no, you know, will attack style artillery top-down view, but yeah, you can call in quite a heavy airstrike. It can do quite a bit of damage, and it can be quite useful when you have missions like this. And this is quite a simple mission type. It's literally go in and mess stuff up, essentially. Being big stompy mechs, even a relatively small stompy mech like mine, you can just plow through things, and it's fine for the most part. Although if you ram into something at high speed, it can actually do damage to you and damage your armor and components. But ramming into things at high speed is generally not an issue with the Urbie, unsurprisingly. Right, what have we got? We've got a vehicle over there. That's a light tank, because ground vehicles are a thing in this. Infantry was supposed to be as well, and there's kind of like an official mod, but I've not tried it. I don't know if having like actual ground infantry enhances things, or if it's just kind of like, here's some flavour. Watch the friendly fire. Yeesh, okay. But yeah, some of the ground vehicles, they're quite squishy. There's mods to make them like more armoured, tougher, but they can still pack serious firepower even if they are relatively squishy. Oh yeah, now that was somebody's reactor going up. That means that mech is a constructive loss. We're not getting any salvage out of that. So that tends to be, you know, torso shot and, you know, breaching the... Because you've got your armour, which is You can actually see in the paper doll back down in the bottom left there. You've got your armour, and that sort of changes colour based on its condition. And then once that's through, you have like the underlying structure. And if that gets too damaged, you can literally lose arms and legs. And that's not so good. If both your legs go, that's a constructive loss, as it were, or constructive, what's that? What's the term I'm looking for? Something. Effective something. I don't know. Mobility. Is it mobility kill? Mobility kill. That's the word I'm looking for. So, yeah, that's not so good. I haven't even mentioned heat management in this, but again, that was a thing in very much carried over from tabletop, and like weapons generate heats. You get too hot, basically, everything overheats and shuts down, and that's not so good because you are left vulnerable for several seconds. So, yeah. So now we have to make a getaway, and they throw a few more forces at us just for good measure. But there won't be anything too difficult to deal with, I don't think. You can take pot shots at their ships, but there's no way to... there's no way to actually damage landing ships. Right, so that's a Shadowhawk and an Enforcer. Shadowhawk's pretty decent, but not the most armoured. Enforcer, I don't really know. I haven't encountered it too much. We've actually not taken too much damage in this one, but this was a fairly simple contract, all things considered. I do really like this ability of the Urbie to be able to actually do the full torso twist. This is a burst AC-20 for anyone wondering why it's a stream of shots. But for some reason, even though the AC-20 and the burst AC-20, they take up the same amount of space, they have the same amount of ammo space required, but the burst AC fires a whole stream of shots, whereas the regular AC only fires just one shot. So I don't know if the individual... I guess the individual shells would have to be smaller. Right, so let's jump down here. We do have one jump jet, so we have some unlimited jump ability, which is sometimes quite useful. You can just fall down cliffs, but obviously it will damage your mech. We've also had one of our allied mechs, you can see there, the ON-1, the Orion, has taken a fair bit of damage, but I don't... Hopefully they haven't lost any weapons systems.
New target, Trebuchet.
It's a Trebuchet, that's a more missile-based mech. The different mech types tend to have different specializations. See, it's lost a leg already, and an arm. Because I have quite a bit of firepower at my disposal. But really, I just want to get out before we take any more damage to my squadron and have to repair it.
Victory is ours, Commander. Prepare for evac.
If there's one criticism I have playing this mostly vanilla experience, it's that the variety of the missions feels a little bit lackluster. I don't know if the Yet Another Mods series actually does spruce that up, or if there are other mods that spruce that up a bit. But there aren't that many types of missions, and you sometimes get little contract chains. You'll sometimes get more important missions that require you to go to different systems, but yeah. Right, so we can take the yeah, that was the Jägermeister we encountered early on, so we can take that as salvage. It's fairly wrecked, but even fairly wrecked, it's still worth a reasonable amount. And let's just take the next most expensive items that we can just sell. There's a bunch of these that we already have. Is there anything that we could absolutely use? Sometimes it's stuff like ammo bins and whatever. Loads of heat sinks. Let's take an ammo bin. Might as well get one for free. So there we go. Payout versus damages. We're in really good standing with House Davian, so I basically have maxed out the sort of negotiating ability I have, so I can take relatively uncomplicated contracts but get very nice payouts from them. And of course, with the loadout, the no tonnage limit mod, it maybe reduces risk a bit too much, but you know, you can then spice things up yourself by doing things like, oh, I don't know, taking out an urban mech, for example. So let's check out transmission. So we've got one from... No, they absolutely hate me. I did a bunch of work for them on this sort of border area for Davian, so House Curita really, really hates me. I did see there was one down, there we go, there, a high reward quest, but is that... One thing, it would be nice to get more information from the map screen sometimes, like it'll say, you know, there's a rare weapon here, or there's a rare mech, and it's like, but which rare mech? Which rare weapon? Because you don't always... Like, it costs you money to jump. You know, this is like the major cost of sort of the major ongoing expense of getting around is not insignificant, and there's sort of a monthly outgoing expenses in terms of I guess crew and upkeep for the ship as well, which the more mechs you get sort of stacks up as well. So at the moment it's 100k a month just for sort of general active maintenance. You can also dump things into cold storage, like somehow you can just stuff this small transport ship just so full of mechs that it doesn't even start to make sense. But hey, it's a video game. I've lost my train of thought there, but I think I started off on the idea that it would be very nice to have more information on the minimap. So basically that. So yeah, I don't know if that transmission there is like, is it this one? No, that's... I guess not. So let's go and check out that. I've already got, I think, several of these on the go, but they're supposed to be sort of high reward quests, so you can sometimes get rare equipment or rare mechs from them. So I guess let's see what's on offer. At the cost of 150,000 credits, because there's no other way of seeing what this quest entails. Right, so, this is a Draconis Combine one. And again, they hate me, so this is probably... Okay, this isn't against any other faction, though. This is against somebody that's just kind of decided to become a Ronin, essentially go off and do their own thing. Let's take it. I mean, they hate me and the rewards will be terrible, but I guess. So if we go to Ops, this is one of the other systems, by the way. You complete various things, cantina missions, and you can essentially put various perks onto your individual mechs at a cost. These are not kind of like global perks. These are things you have to actually put on. See, that right there, you know, 250,000 just for that, and a refit time. Yeah, they're mostly not too bad, although the treasure hunter ones I've not managed to do any of yet, because the treasure hunter ones require you to just schlep around an entire map and try and find a thing that may or may not be there, and that is really annoying. And so far I've schlepped plenty and haven't actually yet found anything. So yeah, I don't think there's anything good in this system. It's usually worth checking, but nothing I need especially. Anyway, okay, contracts. Is that in this system? Yes, Quest the Traitor. Oh, it is actually against House Davian. Okay, so this will cost me a bit of reputation against House Davian, but my reputation is almost maxed out, so I can go back and do some House Davian contracts. That's against House Kurita for House Liao. And that's for Steiner again against Davian. But yeah, let's do this quest. And as you can see, I get, well, like very little out of this. So let's... is it even worth taking the salvage shares? We're not going to get a mech for 9. I don't think we're going to get a mech for 9. Let's just take the cash. So, that is still being repaired. Let's take a slightly more sensible... let's try the Jaeger mech, which is a heavy. It's a sort of on the light end for a heavy mech. And that is still being repaired, but it will basically, like, you can queue it up. Although, I'm not sure, is that LRM going to be... Oh, we also didn't sell that, but we don't want to sell that here because it'll be unprofitable because we're in a territory of people that don't like me very much. I think... Are we? No, wait, where are we? We can't see the star map now because it's been replaced by... Okay, never mind. I can just see it'll pop up, won't it? Yeah, no, okay, we're in house... Of course we're in our territory. I don't know how I forgot that, but that will sell for slightly less than it would otherwise back in Davian territory. Because we have a slightly bad reputation with them, so we'll leave that for now. We'll actually stick that in the cold storage. And just sell its rather crispy-looking Hulk once we're back in friendlier territory. So, yeah, mission. We'll... I don't know if that red LRM is going to get automatically replaced, so we'll... actually, no, I think it if you do the time skip, it still gives you the... No, it doesn't give you the option still. Never mind. But I'm thinking that LRM must have been replaced, because it will replace... If you have like-for-like replacement equipment, it will just automatically replace it if it's been destroyed.
Hangar doors opening. Stand clear.
The cockpit detail is nice, by the way, but completely non-functional, and nothing has a label. So apparently, you just have to remember every single button and dial and switch on every mech that you might actually want to pilot. So before we do anything, let's check the weapon groups. You can't just fire everything all at once, but things have different cycling rates. And that's not necessarily... Yeah, let's put the burst fire AC-10 there and then put the light rifle. I mean, you can, like, set a chain fire with that, which is quite nice. So you can just kind of set a group where everything fires at all at once for an alpha strike, but that would generate a lot of heat. Chain fire means if things will fire in succession, as opposed to just all firing at once. But I don't... Honestly, I've not encountered a thing where that seems like it would be necessary. I mean, I suppose we could do it with the light rifles, but if I'm tracking a target, I kind of just want to fire everything I've got all at once. So this will be a bigger map. You can actually tell just by looking at the map how the map generation works. I suspect some of the story missions will have... like the campaign missions will have sort of handmade maps, but you can tell it works on a tile-based system. And sometimes, as you can see with those bottom two tiles, it will repeat the tiles in the same map. So when you're looking out the mech window, it's fine mostly, but yeah, sometimes it can seem a bit strange on the map when you have the exact same features repeated, or occasionally... I mean, occasionally I guess you will notice, and you'll turn a corner and think, wait, didn't I just see this cluster of buildings over on the other side of the map? And it turns out that yes, you did. Right, so I need to remember I need to lift the reticle a little bit, because there's a bit of fall off with the rifles. The burst fire is not too bad. No. Oh, it's right on the other side of that rock. So we've got turret there. Turrets show up as the same as vehicles, which is a little bit annoying. I kind of wish they didn't. But that's an Urbie. It will, as a nice little visual touch, it will, if something is within inside the optimal range. Alright, lasers especially have quite a damage fall off, so for instance that AC-10 is currently inside optimal range, and you can hit stuff outside of optimal range, but it's going to do less damage or possibly even no damage. So we're just pummeling away at this Urbie. Taking a little bit of damage ourselves. And there we go, that's the pilot punching out. Your own pilots as well, if their mech's taking too much damage, so they can potentially punch out, but also they can just die. I have lost 2 pilots so far in this campaign. And if the mech gets totally wrecked, you can recover it, but it's the case usually that it will cost several million C-bills to actually repair. Yeah, there we go. There are air units to worry about, which wasn't a thing in vanilla BattleTech, but Rogue Tech did add it. It makes more sense to have air units in this kind of first-person version of the game. We can stomp through this base a little bit. We might find item pickup or not. I'm almost tempted to get a mod that, and it might be a bit cheesy, but just like marks them on the minimap for you if there is such a thing. Especially with the treasure hunt contracts. Because I've spent so much extra time now on I don't know how many maps. It must be at least half a dozen maps. Spent like an extra 10 minutes trudging around all the different building clusters I can find and trying to see if there's going to be one of the equipment pickups that I need for the Cantina contracts, but it's been absolutely no luck so far, and I don't know if I've just missed them or if there haven't been any. I honestly have no idea, because the game doesn't give you any indication whatsoever. It just says, hey, there might be one of those things here in this mission, which is not very useful. Hello, that's an AC-2 turret.
If you find the acquisition,
There we go. So once you get close enough, it does light up for you, but yeah. Right, we're doing all right so far. I'm a bit far ahead of everybody. Let's give them a chance to catch up first. Right, this time it was salvage. Sometimes it will be an ammo refill, which can potentially be useful.
Target destroyed.
It's a little behind it, never mind, we fished them off. Yeah, like if you're in a longer duration mission, then potentially, yes, an ammo refill could be useful. But you can't tell it's an ammo refill. It just glows the exact same as any other crate. So, short of leaving them alone until you think you might need an ammo refill, but then discovering that it is in fact a pickup of some, SRM modules, or something that is no use to you in the moment. Yeah, I wish they would at least glow a different colour if it's going to be an ammo pickup. But again, maybe there's a mod that changes that. If you're wondering why I'm not going at full speed, by the way, there's a control that lets you move at the speed of the slowest mech, so that you're all grouped together. Right, so they're down. Oh, okay, that is one of our target mechs. It's going to be a bit bigger. There's no point in me trying to get a clean kill here, because I don't get any good salvage out of it anyway. Right, this Orion's a bit in my way.
Target destroyed. Target acquired.
Right, come on guys, let's go after this wither. That's gonna be a wyvern, I think. If it's a marked mech, it has, like, if it's a target of the mission, it'll have a skull above it. I think that's a heavy, but I'm not sure. Oh, yeah, the tanks and hovercraft, because that's the hovercraft. It's the J. Edgar hovercrafts for some reason. Lots of the names are sort of references to
Centurion.
sort of like old stuff from our time or earlier in the century or even earlier.
Target destroyed.
So there's like a starship class design called the Potemkin, for example, and there's the J. Edgar hovercraft, and
Acquired.
yeah. Right, there's plenty of defences here, I'll take care of them. Armour's looking okay, everyone else is looking
Get to the
okay.
evac so you can live to catch that check.
And
Now
there's
let's
the
pack it
evac
in
zone
before their
over
friends
there.
arrive.
Forcer, it's a
Acquired.
medium with... like, the actual loadouts, like, you as the player can go, not quite hog wild, but, you know, you can have some variation in the loadouts, and it's really just what fits in what slot kind of thing. But yeah, you can't like say I want, at least in vanilla, you can't say I want to take out this large ballistic slot and put in a large energy slot. That's just not a thing. So there is that limitation, but the actual variants do designate, at least in the AI mechs, the weaponry that they have, and I don't know them well enough to go, oh yeah, that variant has got the long-range missiles and medium lasers, and that variant's got a PPC and short-range lasers, and but they do have actual variants. Like, there is a whole massive wiki that just has all of the stuff on it. So that, yeah, that's a heavy mech. That's a 55 tonner. I haven't gotten one of those yet, and today is not the day that I will. Just pick up another random. Yeah, that's all I can get. The payout at least more than covers my costs. So, is there any other? I could do that. We could get a little bit of a buff to our reputation with House Liao. Like, we really don't care about our reputation with Karita. That's completely burned at this stage. And we only get a -1 malice as opposed to the -5 for House Karita. Because have I mentioned that they hate me? So let's repair everything. We didn't lose any modules. It's basically just repairing armor and maybe some minor structural damage, and we'll also see there we go, Davian. It sort of breaks them up by, well, the campaign ones are in their own slot, and then other ones have kind of broken up by region, I guess. So we can set that to track, and we say view system, and we'll see that we need to go there. There's actually a cantina there, so we can see what missions are available there as well. So we'll have a quick look, but I think I've actually got 6 out of 6 at the moment. Yeah, but you can see the sort of thing you get. So, like, collect a mech, and you can either buy it or salvage it. And it will give you potentially rep, and yeah, you can actually get rep with outlaws that way. But you also can just get sort of career points, and sometimes nice things, sometimes hefty payouts. Like that one, for instance, you see VTOLs fairly often. That would be a good one if I could take it. VTOLs are pretty common, so getting 30 of them would not necessarily take that long. Anyway, everything's repaired. So let us go, it's the home screen we want, so go to contracts, and it's the only contract, and it's against Davian. Well, I'll have to hop back over to Davian space and repair my reputation up a bit. Like, you can get it over or under 200, but like 200 is the max. Plus minus 200, and anything over or above that, over or under that rather, it doesn't actually matter in terms of the bonus for missions. Anyway, okay, so this is going to be a 200-ton one again. And again, we'll just take the sea bills. Because we're not going to get anything meaningful salvage-wise. I kind of liked that loadout, but I kind of... Like, I hop around between some different mechs, so like the Rifleman I quite like. And the Hunchback I quite like. This is actually the hero version of the Hunchback. It came with a Gauss rifle, and then the Gauss rifle got destroyed. That's the problem when you get the rare equipment early on, is that if you lose it, you have no way of replacing it. So it's got one of its medium pulse lasers still intact. But, yeah, which was the other bit of more specialised weaponry that it had. So I've had to replace that with an AC-20 burst fire, but it does have some SRM rockets, so let's take that. The hero ones also tend to have... Where are we? They have their own unique... that's the wrong one. Oh, yeah, because I changed the... There we go, that one. Yeah, they have their own special camos. You can obviously still tweak the colours of those if you want, but... I don't really like that one. Yeah, is it supposed to be like sports ball themed? Some kind of sports ball. So we're going to stick with the Dazzle camo, although we could go with the duck green as well. Maybe. But we'll stick with the Dazzle. I like the Dazzle. The duck green is for the duck, because the duck is very special and packs a surprisingly good punch, even if it is as slow as a glacier.
Our target, David Asumi, is allegedly the orchestrator.
So, we are right on top of one of the first areas. There is even already...
operate in this system out of fear of causing an international outcry. So that's where you come in.
Bunch of turrets and stuff nearby.
Looks like we're at the wrong place, Commander.
And that's a light tank that's decided to go for a fly. I do not know why. But there it is. So this has got some short-ranged, unguided SRMs along with a small laser for sort of more close-ranged things. And the AC-20 burst fire you've already seen. And then we've got a standard medium laser and then the pulse laser, which, as you can see, I think it's a little bit weaker, but it generates less heat and reloads a lot quicker. So you can also, you know, like, it sort of flickers a bit as well. So they're on the same group. This one, some mechs, you can do mech punches, and if you have the DLC, and I think it's all locked behind DLC, unfortunately, you can get like actual melee weapons as well. I think it's specifically the Hatchet Man mech and weapon attachments, but there might be stuff in the mods that does not require that DLC.
Brilliant. Payload acquired.
So, you know, if you want to slap all of the armor, have not really a lot of weapons, but like go and smack people in the face with a giant ass mech. Well, one thinks of mech melee weapons from anime, one thinks of giant swords, but it's more of a giant axe in this case. Right, so it's over this side. The environments look pretty good, but it's, again, I guess, the result of the way they've done things in terms of like random map generations. It's just these little pre-defined little areas. So there's no big, like, you know, jump down and you're in the middle of a city kind of thing. You've got these little town areas with skyscrapers, or at least large office buildings. And it's, I don't know, you could sort of hand wave it and go, well, yes, these are all sort of settled planets and you're not wading into capital cities because you're a mercenary mech company and that's not what they use mercenary mech companies for. So it kind of makes sense that you wouldn't necessarily wade into the middle of a city. But that said, you know, there were cities in BattleTech, and you know, again, it was a DLC thing, the city maps and city fighting, but it was a thing, and there were some city-ish environments in the campaign for that as well. Right, take out that laser. Pew pew. I was sort of hoping by going around the edge we might find another pickup, but doesn't seem like it. Lots of these turrets around. They're actually, a lot of these, they're pop-up turrets, so these little platforms here, they just sort of pop up out of the ground. Right, we've got a big dip there, but that's fine. That is a Thunderbolt, and that's the person we're supposed to kill. Okay. So they might be a bit tougher than the average, so let's not charge down just yet. Oh, no, that was my short-range rocket. It's not going to do terribly much at long range. AC-20 will, though. But it's also going to have pretty decent armour. Okay, that was a bit too much lead. Right, let's get down here. You're now more within range. This does run... I don't have any super hot weapons on this. I think the hottest weapons you get are basically PPCs or some of the fast-firing autocannons can generate heat. Gauss rifles also, I think, generate a fair bit, but yeah, PPCs are by far the hottest things. And you get some of the smaller mechs like Panthers, which, yeah, they can mount a PPC and, yeah, it packs a punch, but heat management is a pain in the butt. Right, so, we can basically now just, like, leave. That was it.
Good kill, Commander. That mech is about to go critical.
Right, so, I've never taken damage from a mech exploding yet, but I don't want to stand on top of one and find out. Right, where is the exit zone? It's sort of back towards this way anyway. Not back, actually, I haven't been in this direction yet, but yeah. What's that mech there? That is... I keep wanting to say Vulture, but I think it's actually Vulcan. But, you know, Vulcan as in the god rather than a Star Trek reference. I don't think that was a reference. A couple of turrets, which are a minor nuisance to mechs mostly, but if you're low damage, the turret could still do you a bit of damage. There's another Urbie. I do feel a bit bad beating up the Urbies, but anyway. They are there to be beaten up upon. So I will indeed do it. And, you know, if they've got, I think that's probably an AC-10 burst fire, that can still do some damage. So we'll actually maybe try and target that specifically.
Our employer wants this area cleared of all tanks.
So, yeah, I think I got that. So they've just got the medium laser, or it's probably even a small laser. So if we blow that off, I can actually just stomp over this turret. And it will get destroyed. Now, you can see from the doll, the paper doll, I've lost all of my armour, and I've on red structure now. So if we take much more damage on that side, we could lose the weapon that's there. So, yeah, let's just get to the exit. I've only one salvage from this, but it was a pretty good one. An ERPPC, that's nice. Oh, in fact, there's another salvage right there. Right, sometimes it does this. It puts a salvage at the exit, and then you don't get to pick it up, and that's really annoying. Because walking in the circle, of course, will trigger you to leave if the ship is there. If the ship isn't there, sometimes there's a couple of moments where there's some voice lines and you have enough time to walk up to it and pick it up. But other times, the game just bilks you out of some salvage that you might have found. So, yeah. I'm in two minds of the salvage system. You can find some nice stuff, but on the other side, sometimes it can be really annoying. Oh, that would have been nice. The level 3 burst fire AC-20. Actually, that could have been within reach if I'd taken the 2 levels of salvage, but never mind. We'll just pick up an LRM-10. Actually, no, let's get the M Laser 3. I don't have many of those. think they're all mounted on things. I don't have any spare ones. And I'll guess get a basic LRM that we can sell. So, that actually gave me Tier 2 AC-20, Tier 3 AC-10 burst fire, and I've not really used AC-2s on anything, but you know, if I decide to go with a fast-firing pew-pew, relatively large caliber. I mean, you can put literal machine guns, which I'm guessing are maybe probably even larger than 50 cal, though it'd have to be mech-sized and actually do damage to all the mechs consistently, but yeah, that would be a very silly build if you just went with all machine guns. That also filled a mission, and that gives me a double heatsink, and that's very nice. And that's leveled that up as well, so also twist speed. So something like that on the Urbie, for example, could be fun. And I'll maybe find somewhere to put the double heatsink on, because that was another thing that was on that Hero Hunchback, was it had a bunch of double heatsinks, and I think I've only got one. I've got two of them that survived, and then I tried to replace them with single heatsinks, but I think it's still less cooling than I had originally. So that is that's Battle Mech, and I quite like it. It's not perfect by any means, and if I can get the mods working that let me do things like tinker with engines and internal structure even more, I will be even happier, because that kind of thing is my jam, apparently. Like these days I don't play Hearts of Iron 5. Yeah, I have secret early access to Hearts of Iron 5 for you guys. Hearts of Iron 4, I don't play it without the Black Ice mod, and it's because it integrates the sort of extended naval outfitting mod that originally came out as part of Man the Guns. It basically has so much more depth to that, and you can just make your own very customized fleets. So anytime I do dip into Hearts of Iron 4 again, I always play with that, and I always just focus on making my own silly fleets of like light cruisers that have got 3 catapults and all of the spotting, or 40-knot destroyers that just have silly amounts of torpedoes and stuff like that. Raiding battleships, you know, you can do that if you really want to, although it's not a great idea, but you can still do it. So yeah, just getting in and really tinkering with the nuts and the bolts, that definitely sounds like something I will enjoy if and when I can get those mods actually installed. But for now I'm making do with the mostly vanilla experience, which is still pretty good. And hey, maybe I can find someone at some point to actually do this co-op with as well, because I think that would also be quite fun. So that is it for Mechwarrior 5, the big stompy robot game, or the latest in a long line of big stompy robot warrior games. And I'll actually finish this by saying there's a video I will link down to in the comments of a guy that a couple months ago did a video on Mechwarrior 2, and it actually has a sort of fairly good introduction to the Mechwarrior universe as well. And he's also just got a channel that I think deserves more subs. I think he's a quite entertaining video producing person. It's not even that he does lots of Mechwarrior stuff, it's just he sort of looks at older games, or games that sometimes really obscure stuff like Russian language mods for the original Fallout games and stuff like that. So yeah, you can go check them out below. That's it for me though. Hopefully you have enjoyed this big stompy robot game, pure stream of consciousness waffling, as is the case for a lot of my videos. And if you did enjoy it, you can do all the usual things down underneath in the comments section, and hit the like button, sub, all that jazz, and of course, as always, stay tuned for more.